Although the Spritz has been around for over 100 years, maybe closer to 200 years, only in recent memory has it reached the global fever pitch that we see today, where everywhere you go, particularly where the sun's shining, you'll see people drinking and enjoying Aperol Spritzes, Campari Spritzes, Amaro Spritzes, and they're super refreshing, super delicious. But one thing that people do is they tend to favor a 3 to 2 to 1 ratio, a Prosecco to Aperol to soda water. But I prefer something different. Today, I'm going to show that to you. So the first thing we need to do with our Spritz is decide what we're going to build it around. And a really obvious option would be Aperol. Everyone knows the Aperol Spritz. It's a really good base for the drink. But you can also experiment with other bases. Things like Campari work really well for a little bit more bitterness and a little bit more booziness. You can also experiment with different Amari. Each Amaro will have a kind of different flavor profile, so experiment with different bases. But to our Aperol, which we're going to go with today because it's really classic and works so well, we're going to need also some soda water, and finally, some Prosecco. And most people really like that 3-2-1 formula. 3 parts Prosecco, 2 parts Aperol, 1 part soda. But I actually like to change this up a little bit. And rather than going 3-2-1, I like to go 1-2-3 squeeze. And I'll explain the squeeze later, but we're going to just build this slightly differently to a classic Aperol Spritz, just to maintain that really nice bubbliness, really nice fizz, and get as much kind of refreshing vibrancy in the drink as possible. So the first thing we need to do is grab a really cold glass to build the drink in, just like this one. And then rather than using a jigger like this one to measure the drink, I'm actually going to build it on scales directly in the glass. And the reason for this is that same reason, just to keep it really fizzy. So as I said before, 3-2-1 is popular. I like to do this slightly differently and do 1-2-3, starting with 1 part of our soda water. So I'm going to do 25 grams of soda as our starting point. And then 2 parts of that is obviously going to be 50 grams of Aperol. This has got those really nice kind of citrus fruits in there. Very refreshing, a little bit of bitterness, but not too much. And then before we mix the drink, I'm actually going to stir these two together. So by doing this, we obviously don't use the jigger, which is going to give us more touch points. And each time we pour it into something, reduce the kind of fizziness of the liquids, but also building it on scales with just the first 2 ingredients means I can stir them, get them really nicely mixed. And whereas the Aperol wants to sit on the bottom, now it's kind of mixed in with the soda water, so we can really get it all the way through the drink without having to stir too vigorously, particularly with the Prosecco. So, gonna tear my scales, pop my Prosecco, because this is always a bit of a celebration, right? And then to add our Prosecco, we're gonna add 3 parts, so 75 grams. And I recommend pouring this like you would in a champagne glass, just so it really mixes nicely. Oh, nearly 69. And then we can add our ice afterwards. So with an Aperol Spritz, you want to add plenty of ice, and you want to almost be kind of vigorous with how you add it, because it will serve as another way just to mix the drink without having to stir it. So just give them a little push around, and you want to get loads of ice in Aperol Spritz, because it does want to be really refreshing. And then my final tip, when I spoke about 1-2-3 squeeze, refers to the orange. So I really like orange with Aperol. I think it's a perfect combination. So when I say squeeze, what I mean is take a really nice orange, a nice juicy orange. Take a really big wedge, maybe like 1/6 of the whole orange, and we're just going to squeeze the whole thing into the drink. And this just brings that really nice kind of sweetness and acidity of orange, and adds that really nice fresh orange character. We're going to add a second slice of orange for our garnish, and this just makes the most delicious Spritz. So there we have it, refreshing, bittersweet, dry, fruity, beautiful. We have a Spritz. Enjoy.